Though it is good news, of course, for one family in particular, Gadi Moses, who is 80 years old. He turned 80 in captivity. He was kidnapped from the kibbutz Oz back on October the 7th, 2023. During that horrific moment, of course, the Hamas atrocity committed in southern Israel, his partner was killed, Efrat. His ex-wife was also kidnapped. She was released in November 2023 after spending 49 days in captivity. So this is Gadi Moses, who will be released along with Arbel Yahud, the civilian from the same kibbutz, and also Agam Berger, the IDF spotter. That's basically described as a non-combatant observer of matters via various camera networks and drone networks that the Israeli army uses to track matters. So what that adds up to in terms of exchange of Palestinian prisoners, there would be for Arbel Yahud as a civilian 30 prisoners released. For Gadi Moses, one imagines 30 again as he is a civilian, and for Agenberger the figure is usually 50 as she is part of the military. You can add that up, but of course we'll only be sure of what actually happens when it happens. We also understand that 5 Thai nationals are being released. What their inclusion in this deal has, we'll have to wait and see how it all turns out, Francois.
Yeah, and so the ceasefire for now on the rails, but it's still tenser than ever over in the West Bank.
The ceasefire in Gaza does appear to be holding. However, the situation in the West Bank, the other Palestinian territory, is becoming increasingly tense. Today we spent the day in a place called Tulkarm. It's near to the border with Israel, between Israel and the West Bank. It's a little point of interest for people viewing in France. Tulkarm is actually twinned with Montpellier. You couldn't get two different kind of places. So the difference between the two is unimaginable. We went to Tulkarm. There's a refugee camp there. We couldn't get inside, and we'll explain why. Because we got to the entrance, we drove around, we then heard that a man had been shot dead just as we were passing by, shot in the head. We're waiting to get the full details of what happened there. We understand it was an Israeli sniper that picked him off. We also know that earlier this week there was an Israeli airstrike on Tulkarm. 2 men were killed in that strike, others injured. Israel say that they were Hamas operatives in that area. But today we've been hearing testimony from people who have basically been forced out of their homes by Israeli army incursions into the camp there. And they've described being sort of having their homes broken up, being told if you leave, you live, if you stay here, you die. The type of intimidation and threats that one wouldn't really associate with a civilized military operation. That's what they've been faced. We'll be putting out a bigger report about this, of course, in due course. But the situation in Tulkarm was incredibly tense. We were advised to leave at one point before more Israeli soldiers came in. Just to give you a sense of what the place is like, there is a checkpoint going in there that closes at 4:30 in the afternoon. Then you can't get in or out. This is the situation. And on that issue of checkpoints, there are some 890 additional checkpoints put up by Israel's military across the occupied West Bank since the beginning of the war in the Gaza Strip. So the tension is growing there. We've also heard that the place where we stopped and grabbed some refreshments actually whilst leaving Tulkarm, a place called Anapta, there's actually an Israeli military operation going on there right now. And when we left, it just seemed like a very quiet, sleepy place. Now, I know looks could be deceiving, but the vibe that we got was that it was actually a very relaxed place and people were quite peaceful. Israel, in terms of its statement about what it's doing, it confirms that in Jenin, which is north of Tulkarm, they've recovered some 150 explosives during their operations there, and they say that the operations continue militarily both in Jenin and Tulkarm. So we're observing matters.